After an initial rocky release a few years ago, Distant Worlds 2 is going from strength to strength. There is still progress to be made, but it's always encouraging to see a small developer that actively listens to the community, which is why you don't need to look far to see how happy the community is with both the free updates, of which there have been many, and the 3 paid-for DLCs that have already been released for the game. As we look forward to the imminent release of the 4th DLC, which brings 2 more new playable factions to the ever-expanding roster for the game, the Atuk and Wakurus, along with some new mechanics specific to those factions, in this video we will detail exactly what you get in the 2nd DLC for Distant Worlds 2, the faction DLC which brings us both the Quameno and Gizureans, before discussing which players this DLC might appeal to and whether it represents good value for money, to help you decide whether to purchase this faction's DLC. So let's waste no more time and jump into the 2 new factions you get with this DLC, starting with the introverted puzzle-solving Quameno. So let's take a quick look at the art style and design for the Quameno. Iron Man crossed with a frog seems to summarize these guys quite nicely, but seriously, they are fish-like and love research, so it kind of makes sense. Their overall design is circular, with some pretty cool-looking ships and space stations, I'm sure you'll agree. So let's get to know these guys a little better before looking at what makes them different in terms of actual gameplay. Quamenos are very peaceful and prefer to keep to themselves. They typically choose to live in isolation from other races, staying out of the mainstream of galactic activity, a trait I'm sure we can all relate to. They enjoy difficult mental challenges, such as solving puzzles or deciphering unknown inscriptions. This natural inclination also makes them gifted linguists. They can master a new language within a few days. They also love to experiment with exotic scientific principles, and in the process, they often produce potent technology. In fact, their natural fascination with unusual energy theories has led them to develop the Nova Core, a very powerful and efficient reactor. Quamenos take a tremendous interest in galactic history. They also seek out peculiar prehistoric artifacts. Their studies have led many Quameno scholars to claim that there are large gaps in our understanding of past events. Quameno communities typically live in semi-submerged, high-tech biodomes in the shallow coastal areas of mangrove forests, marshy swamps, or ocean planets. So the Quameno produce slowly, expand slowly, don't really like anybody else, and basically want to spend all of their time researching, which is very much reflected in their statistics. They have the biggest boost to research in the game, with a 20% output boost, along with a cost reduction, which is basically supercharged research. But on the flip side, they're not great at anything else, which is described as having a war economy, but for research. Most of the time, you'll find that anything not related to research will cause a reduction in either happiness or your rate of research, or both. So, for example, forming some type of agreements with a different species will be seen as a distraction that will reduce your rate of research, or having unassimilated alien populations will have the same effect. But do anything that will increase your research, such as building a new research station, or even identifying a new place where you can build one, will increase happiness across your empire. There are also some pretty crazy bonuses, such as when you complete an advanced research project, there is a chance to receive a chunky boost to happiness and your research output. And my particular favorite, if you choose to crash research a project, you can also choose to sacrifice a scientist to instantly research that tech, which is a nice incentive to all of your scientists to not be the worst one of the group. Then finally, in terms of technology, they have the best reactors and shields in the game. Overall, I think we've all been there, where you focus far too much on research and get destroyed because you've kind of forgotten to actually build a fleet. At least with the Quameno, you'll tear through that tech tree rather quickly. Next up, we have the numberless and ruthless Gizureans. So, initial impressions, the Gizureans look admittedly badass, a bit like if Bumblebee from Transformers turned to the dark side and maybe drank too many coffees one morning. They are wasps, or hornets perhaps, and this is reflected in their hex armor, which you can see in the design of their stations and ships. They're an aggressive species, and the design team certainly knew how to reflect that in their portrait and overall aesthetic. And interestingly, they have tall ships rather than long ones, which I guess reflects their flying nature. So let's get to know these guys a little better too. Gizureans are an insectoid race with 4 arms. They can also fly short distances with their small wings. Oh, how cute. Oh, wait. They are aggressive and unfriendly, though not very intelligent. Gizureans tend to be highly belligerent. They often make inflammatory claims of their own tribal superiority, viciously mocking and insulting other tribes. This leads to frequent intertribal battles. Gizureans have an intense dislike of other alien races, especially non-insectoid races. This trait makes it very difficult to peacefully assimilate Gizureans into an empire. They have a very high reproductive rate, and thus their empires can grow and expand very quickly. Gizureans typically build their cavernous underground homes in rocky areas of rocky desert or sandy desert planets, but can sometimes also be found on desert savanna or volcanic planets. Gizureans are the fastest growing faction in the galaxy. They devour and consume, but not in an evil way like the Boscara. They just see everything and everyone else as food to fuel their growth. They're no good at research or diplomacy, but have great troop research, and in particular, if you can capture a ship, they get more of a tech boost from that than other species due to their superior ability to reverse engineer. They also have a decent repair rate to their ships, and rather terrifyingly, their larger fleets come with increased accuracy. And it's pretty cool that they can have planetary-based fighters faster than anyone else, plus they're better. Rather brutally, you can create a breeding world by choosing to exterminate the other species on that planet, using them to boost your growth, basically by eating them. They don't get on with anyone else in the galaxy because they see everyone else as food, but another little quirk of theirs is that they consume significantly less luxury resources than others. So in conclusion, who should purchase this DLC? As a general rule, anyone who enjoys the base game of Distant Worlds 2 will enjoy this DLC. As with the other DLCs for Distant Worlds 2, it's a solid addition with 2 genuinely fun races to play. The Quamenos will of course appeal to those who enjoy tearing through the research tree, but it's the Gizureans that have really captured the hearts of Distant Worlds 2 players. Because who doesn't like a super aggressive species that encourages you to purge planets? As I've said with the other DLCs, even if you're not all that interested in either of these races, the devs for Distant Worlds 2 have released so many quality updates to the base game for free that you may well find purchasing this DLC is the perfect way to show your appreciation for their efforts. All in all, if you enjoy Distant Worlds 2, you could do much worse than purchasing this DLC. Looking at value for money, this DLC in isolation may seem expensive, as it only adds 2 species, some light mechanics, and a bit of story for each to the base game. However, as expansive as the base game is, it does only come with a limited number of species. So to add 2 whole new ones is actually a large percentage expansion when you look at it in that way. Combine that with the fact that you could spend half your lifetime playing Distant Worlds 2, and this DLC will only increase that, you could certainly argue the price is well worth paying, especially when you can pick up this DLC with a 30 to 40% discount. If you have any further questions, please feel free to ask, or if you already own this DLC and have some additional information you'd like to add, please let us all know in the comments below. If you found the video useful, please leave a like for the algorithm gods, and if you enjoy this style of review, consider subscribing for more content, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.